Hello folks, welcome back to Motivated Investing. El Salvador has now become the first country to have adopted Bitcoin as a parallel legal tender alongside the US dollar. This should hardly come as a shock since COVID-19 triggered the proliferation of flat digital currencies. Although Nayib Bukele, El Salvador's president, is leading the way, politicians from other Latin American countries have also begun calling for the adoption of Bitcoin due to their reliance on the US dollar. Meanwhile, the World Bank rejected a request from El Salvador to help with the implementation of Bitcoin, citing concerns over transparency and the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. So which countries are likely to implement Bitcoin next? Chainalysis, which researches blockchain transactions, ranked Venezuela third on its global crypto adoption index. Venezuela is already using crypto as a palliative for its economic situation, but Paraguay, Panama, Mexico, and Brazil could be next. El Salvador will not be an isolated case. Latin American countries and their politicians are considering other currencies alongside the US dollar as a reserve currency to provide liquidity and risk negotiation when COVID-19 hit. The dollars kept in countries' reserves lost value, and with that, the research for an alternative currency to hedge against inflation began. Who wouldn't want a stable economy, autonomy, and liquidity that isn't tied to the decisions of other countries? Due to international commercial law, Bitcoin is also authorized as legal tender under all the treaties where El Salvador is a member. The other countries that are part of these treaties, and consequently the banks and financial institutions, will have to accept this currency. Suppose you own a business in Mexico and do business with a vendor in El Salvador requiring your company to pay in Bitcoin. Your financial institution must figure out how to send the desired currency. It's a domino effect. This movement will trickle down to all the multinationals with officials in El Salvador. The World Bank is skeptical, but does Bitcoin have the infrastructure to become a globally accepted currency? Elon Musk's decision to stop Tesla from accepting Bitcoin as payment unless miners used 50% clean energy led to fresh scrutiny of cryptocurrencies' environmental impact. But El Salvador plans to implement a state-run geothermal energy utility that will use power derived from volcanoes, a renewable and sustainable energy resource for Bitcoin mining. This marks the start of more renewable crypto energy projects. And even though the World Bank has publicly expressed doubts about the rise of crypto, it is creating an alternative crypto infrastructure to stay relevant. Even the Bank of England was urged to create and regulate its own cryptocurrencies during a government-backed review early this year. The alternative solution these financial institutions are considering is a central bank digital currency, or CBCT, a digital form of country's currency. When that currency is established, we would see government benefits for unemployment and welfare paid by CBDC. Then the taxing authorities could require most corporations to pay payroll tax with CBCT, which would necessitate paying employees in CBDC. Business analytics company MicroStrategy already pay its board of directors in Bitcoin. Forcing the general public to buy banks would mean restriction on where you could purchase alternative currencies, and financial institutions would be able to block third-party crypto sites or wallets. By the way, if you are enjoying the video, please like and subscribe and let us know what do you think about it. Comment down below. Public education about emerging cryptocurrencies is a key. Decentralized cryptocurrencies mean governments can seize the assets of a political opponent if they disagree with the political agenda, which is why people living under authorization governments using financial systems to assert control are pushing for its adoption. In June this year, El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele announced he was proposing a bill that recognizes Bitcoin as legal tender. If enacted, El Salvador will become the first sovereign nation to formally recognize Bitcoin as its national currency, alongside the United States dollar. The longer-term implications of this legislation are obviously very difficult to forecast at this point in time, but there are a few items that should be a part of this conversation. Once the excitement around this news settles down, the reality of implementing this idea will come to forefront. From a big picture perspective, the issue is not a technological one. The technology works just fine. The main issues will be those connected to mindset and financial policy. In short, Bitcoin being legal tender in El Salvador means that any business in Central American nation has to accept it as a payment by law. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele clarified that they would go through a transitional period and help merchants to accept Bitcoin payments in areas with unstable internet or lack of electronic devices. El Salvador making this move isn't as significant as it would be for most nations because it is one of about a dozen countries, most of them microstates such as Andorra and Nauru, without its own currency. El Salvador abandoned its own currency in 2001 and adopted the US dollar as its legal tender. This process of official dollarization was seen as a reform that would curb inflation and increase trade with the US. So, El Salvador has less to lose than other nations in adopting a second currency as legal tender. There is no controversy about losing sovereignty and monetary policy autonomy. There will be no loss of seigniorage. The profit made on issuing currency that's worth a lot more than the cost of making it. Why did El Salvador do this? Remittances account for roughly 20% of the nation's gross domestic product and mostly come from El Salvador's working in the US. Bukele says that a large chunk of this gets lost in transfer fees, which Bitcoin can help to reduce. El Salvador is a so-called dollarized economy, which means that the fiscal and monetary decisions of the US government and Federal Reserve have a tremendous impact. Adopting Bitcoin could give the nation more independence. Bukele said that El Salvador could become a hub of Bitcoin mining, the process of verifying transactions in exchange for new coins. Bukele said in one tweet that if only 1% of outstanding value of Bitcoin ended up in Salvador, then it would boost the nation's gross domestic product by 25%, though he hasn't spelled out clearly the mechanism through which it might boost GDP. The risks. Having two legal tender would complicate matters, particularly when one of those currencies is subject to wild swings in its value. Consider the provision in the new law that all obligations in money expressed in US dollar existing before the effective date of this law may be paid in Bitcoin. Even that is complicated. How and by whom will the amount of Bitcoins necessary to pay a debt be determined? Will it be based on the Bitcoin price at the time the debt was incurred, or when the debt falls due? The difference of even a few days could be significant. If the expectations is the price of Bitcoin is going to rise, why would you want to buy things with it? Why not wait? If expectations is the price is going to fall, why would you want to accept it? For most transactions, using the US dollar will still make the most sense. What's next? As more global economies continue to feel the economic effect of the COVID-19 crisis, governments will increasingly be looking around for new sources of funding. Digital money but specifically crypto assets, do increasingly look assured to form the foundation of the 21st century financial system. As the market develops and matures, however, it remains to be seen just which specific crypto asset will rise to the leadership position. If some market participants thought that interest and investment in crypto had plateaued after a flurry of activity earlier in the year, this recent news shows the folly of trying to perfectly time such a fast-moving market. Bitcoin, after all, is decentralized and not answerable to any central plan or authority. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.